Hello everybody, welcome to WhatCulture Gaming. I'm Scott, joined by Josh.
Hello.
Josh, my friend, I hear that you are now a farmer because you have many leeks.
Oh man, yes, Scott, I do. I've got loads of leaks, mate. We've just done a video on a bunch of them as well.
Hello?
I can't believe, just got to recover from that. Got to just keep going. The news is important. Yes,
You
Scott,
can do it.
I
Just
do. About
follow on.
Days Gone 2, my friend, because
Good.
I love that game. I don't know if I've ever talked to you about Days Gone before.
You don't love it.
love
You
it.
don't. You've had to convince yourself, Stockholm Syndrome style, that you love it because you spent so much time getting the living hell kicked out of you by it that the only other resolution is to say that it was a good time. I have the same thing for Final Fantasy VII's Platinum. I don't even know what that is. But anyway, carry on.
The difference is you think Final Fantasy VII is Game of the Year, whereas I didn't say Days Gone was Game of the Year. That's all I'm saying, you know what I mean? But yeah, in news that will surprise nobody, it seems as though Sony Bend, who obviously made the original Days Gone, is hiring for a new AAA project that pretty much sounds like Days Gone 2. It of course is going to be Days Gone 2, but they don't name it here. They just call it a AAA project that they're working on. They're looking for a rigging technical artist to create cinematic quality facial articulation and a senior audio programmer to create 3D audio. They also want to make the rigging artist. They have to make a deformation sort of animations for the face and clothes and hair, which to me sounds a bit like zombies. You know what I mean? You want lifelike, grotesque, skinning maps to make them look as horrible and as scary as possible.
If they've been looking at what Capcom have been doing, I mean, in terms of, like, if you shoot a zombie in the face in the modern day, assumedly that face needs to deform, like you said, it needs to be torn apart. And I love how much Capcom raised the bar. Like, when we all played Resident Evil 2 Remake, realizing just how much you can chew through someone else's body with bullets and grenades and everything, only for their top half to detach and still come after you. They, assumedly, they're following in that vein. I don't think that you could not. I mean, Days Gone is... I can't think of any other sort of premier zombie game that isn't, Capcom's, in terms of like big AAA stuff and something that's been led with the whole might of Sony's marketing. If you're going to be in that stature, you need something that is, look, this is some of the best zombie killing stuff that you could possibly do. So I like the idea of them chasing that stuff. Days Gone, for 100%. Me, the main improvements I think need to be on the gameplay side. But I guess in terms of sheer presentation, hopefully they lead with that stuff.
And I mean, the original was, it might not have been The Last of Us Part 2 or even, Uncharted 4, but it was a pretty impressive game from a technical standpoint. Like, the open world especially of that kind of ravished Oregon, like, looked lush. It was so... kind of realistic. The way you explored that, the geography all made sense, and going from kind of like the wilderness into those scattered towns was always really nice. But I do think when it came to kind of the zombies themselves, although they had a really great backstory, like the biology of them and the ecology of them was so kind of genuinely fascinating, how they were mutating and stuff. That was interesting, but in the design themselves, I do think they left quite a bit to be desired. You had your basic 4 types of zombies. You had your regular shamblers, you had your big tank lad who's somehow like roided up, and then you've got the agile one that's quite easy to take down with a few hits, but will absolutely pounce on you and take you out. So when it came to the actual designs themselves, I don't think they ever quite matched the creativity and inspiration behind the history of them and like the story beats and stuff like that. So I do want to see going forward like the wave-based tech doubled down on, but while you're mowing down hundreds of these zombies, like just seeing like their skin like go flying and like their skin burning off, just being absolutely wrecked by what you're doing to them, and yet, and this is important, still coming for you. Like Resident Evil 2 does that so well, like you said, you take a zombie's top half off and then you still see it crawling towards you. That's part of the fun, that's part of what makes them so scary and so formidable, because even if you think you've dealt with them, there's always a chance that they might still be, creeping around or might have one last lunge. And I do think to have more unpredictable zombies in the next game is a great way to go.
Oh yeah, man. I think, is there anything else in terms of the leak? Because we should talk about what we want to see from it. Or have they revealed anything else?
I'm afraid, Scott Hilford, they have absolutely not. But we do have stuff to go on, in regards to the ending of it. This is literally, the leak is just, they're currently advertising for job positions for their next AAA game, and it's going to be Days Gone because of just how well Days Gone sold. Like, that game was the 19th best-selling game of 2019, which might not sound like a lot, but for a new IP that didn't get amazing reviews and wasn't based on, like, a previous franchise or anything, like, that's pretty awesome. Like, it sold way way beyond Sony's expectations, according to rumors and leaks. Apparently, this is unconfirmed, but apparently the rumors are that Sony expected Death Stranding to sell really well and Days Gone to sell quite poorly, but it was actually the other way around, so they were surprised by this. And it's always been inevitable that there was going to be another game, but now it just seems like 1 year on from it being launched, they're properly ramping up production for a PlayStation 5 exclusive sequel.
I was going to say, we'll talk about Days Gone spoilers. I assume that it's so long since it came out. I guess it's been a year. But like,
if you're watching this video, you know, surely.
Yeah, you should know, because we were talking about different zombie types and stuff, and I think we should talk about the big reveal that you can do post credits, where you go back to that scientist guy and kind of realize that he's been like half infected, he's half human. That idea of like a talking kind of semi-sentient zombie. I assume they're going to explore that stuff going forward. That the infection is something that some people have managed to live with.
Yeah, I mean, I love that, because that reveal. Look, it could be very dumb. You could go into the next game and it could be, sentient zombies with guns, like the worst parts of Resident Evil 5. Or they could do it well. They could almost go down an I Am Legend type route with it, even because they do look quite similar, like the monsters in I Am Legend and the monster at the end, well, the human monster at the end of Days Gone, and do something where, they're starting to get intelligent, they are smart, they retain their human memories or whatever, and they're trying to do something nefarious that way. Perhaps they're trying to take over the world in the same way that they are in I Am Legend, because at this point they outnumber the humans. So if they can, like the humans themselves are the legend, you know what I mean? Like they're the bad guys essentially, because they're the minority and it's not their planet anymore. If they go down that route, I'd be quite interested in it. But yeah, that's such a WTF moment right at the very end of that game. It just throws you an absolute curveball. And to be honest, it did get me excited for the sequel, because the story itself of Days Gone, while it's interesting, like the stakes aren't necessarily that high, if that makes sense. And you don't find too much out about the scientist plot for a long time while you're playing.
It's so long. It's so long. It's like 70 hours or something. It's just this massively drawn out thing. But I think the gameplay mechanics are so solid. I actually really love their whole open world horror approach. That idea. I still remember the first time I was like just exploring the game world at nighttime. The general hills and mountains are very misty, and I was just slowly walking forward, and I heard what sounded like a pack of zombies, like just over in the distance. I remember coming over the crest of that hill and just seeing them, this big horde, just moving across the plains, like trying to find someone else to devour or whatever. And I was like, that's just great. Like I just felt like I stumbled upon that. Later I realized it was scripted to happen every single time, and every time I went to that part of the map, they were always there. But the first time it happened, it was amazing. And I like the idea of them building on that stuff as well. The only real devs that I feel have done open world horror are like obviously Bend with Days Gone, and the Evil Within 2, Tango with Evil Within 2. And I think there's so much more you can do with that in terms of just flesh out this open world, give it all sorts of dynamic interactions in terms of, you're in this small town, there's maybe 3 or 4 houses grouped together, but hey, if you approach from this angle, there'll be a jump scare, or there'll be something that staggers out from behind the corner or whatever. There's ways to do that stuff where, like, yes, it's triggered, but there's maybe a variety of ways that it can happen.
Yeah, definitely. And
I think that stuff.
Yeah, like the original Days Gone, for all its kind of technical issues, it had a real great sense of flow when you got to like those explorable areas, and you could trigger kind of like those big events, like you said, in kind of interesting ways. You might have started to clear out an area with some zombies in, then accidentally fall into a nest and then trigger that nest, and then suddenly there were hundreds of zombies swarming like the area and you had to escape. In that kind of flow of being on top of everything, suddenly being thrust into what seems like an unwinnable situation only to scrape yourself back out. Like for me, that is the flow of survival horror. It's that constant unease of, look, yeah, I might have a bunch of weapons now, I might be totally stocked up on resources, but if I make a mistake, things are going to go tits up, and I'm going to have to try and figure and worm my way out of it. And like you said, that's great about Evil Within 2, like that sense of unpredictability of, even when you are at your most confident, you can be completely slapped back down to the bottom in an instant, but that's enjoyable. Like they do it in an enjoyable, well-paced way. Like, yeah, I do think a lot of developers are kind of missing out on, like, for me, I don't want to rag on Resident Evil again in a completely unrelated video, but I would have loved to have seen more of that open world unpredictability in Resident Evil 3, for instance, in that version of of Raccoon City, because I do think when it's done well, it's done so well, and that's why I actually love Days Gone so much, because of that core loop of, you know, driving around this motorbike, having to stop for gas, exploring, you know, the surrounding areas, and then stumbling into something unpredictable or an unpredictable zombie encounter. And I think if they manage to double down on that, you know, the big horde technology, make that more kind of like unpredictable, like I said, more spontaneous, more perhaps procedurally generated.
I think,
have more enemies. Because by the end of Days Gone 1, you have so many ways of dealing with those hordes that they almost don't become a problem anymore. You've got like these huge Molotovs that deal mad splash damage. You've got these great weapons. So if you can get more zombies in that act in more unpredictable ways, like we said at the beginning, where you're not sure if they're totally dead. Like, that's such a unique selling point that I don't think any other zombie game really has, that I do think needs to define what Days Gone is in like the future.
That's one of the things that I feel like they struggled with in the lead up to launch, was like, what is Days Gone other than just like open world zombie killer 101? Whereas like State of Decay has the, you know, day by day survival stuff, where sometimes you're leaving things one day to the next before you can see what's going to happen, or you're going out and hoovering up survivors and bolstering your defense capabilities and things like that. I just, in Days Gone's case, like you said with the horde, like just imagine that big horde that you have in the first game, but throw in a couple of the big bloater guys that you need to sort of focus on, and they're making their way through the horde, and there's like a fast guy running around the side and things like that. Like, there's a way for them to make that horde stuff front and center, which I know they tried to do very much so the first time around. I just didn't feel like it got there. But yeah, let us know what you think down in the comments below. What do you want to see from a Days Gone 2? And what do you think about the idea of them focusing on zombie face deformation? That could be pretty cool. For now though, I've been Scott from WhatCulture.com.
I've been Josh from WhatCulture.com.
I'll catch you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Leaks, mate.
Leaks.
Good.
Well, you're a farmer, Scott. You've got leaks, mate.